Hello, everybody. It's lovely to see your faces out here today. We are excited to welcome the Fab Four. There were many people that collaborated, but this group, they're the leaders here, and they're going to share with us some stories. Please send in your questions through the slido.com Unbound Miami, and we'll make sure to ask those as well. So I do want to welcome to the stage what I call the Fab Four, David Coddington. Vice President, Greater Florida Alliance. Manny Mencia, Senior Vice President of International Trade and Development from Enterprise Florida. Mike Finney, President of the Beacon Council. And Shereena Coleman from Palm Beach County. Come sit by me. I don't want to be alone over here.
You want to go? All right.
Okay, so we've got about 33 minutes here to discuss. So please do send in your questions. I want to start off with Shereena. You first, if we can. If you can bring us up to speed with what role your organization played thus far in the efforts to bring Amazon to South Florida, and highlight any collaborations that you guys did with each other, pivotal moments.
Sure thing. So we were so fortunate for this opportunity to not only entertain the thought of such a large company coming to our region, but more importantly, it was an opportunity for the three counties to work together, which had never really been done before. Not only were we able to work collaboratively enough to pull off the large response to the proposal, but more importantly, it allowed us to really, within our own communities, heighten that collaboration. So one example I could share is that Palm Beach County has an academic leaders council, which comprised of the presidents of each of the colleges, as well as the superintendent of schools. And as we were reviewing the proposal, we saw that the majority of questions were tied to talent development, how our education partners are working together. So this was really an opportunity for us to quickly assemble these partners to really gather around this incredible mission to help project South Florida as the best premier location for a proposal of this magnitude. So it really allowed us to have the college presidents not even blink with their request to help us out, and we produced a letter that showed the support of all of these education partners from Jupiter all the way down to Miami, and that was the highlight, I would say, of the entire experience.
Thank you. And that document was something that was unprecedented, never been created before.
You're absolutely right. This one document has the logo of every college and university in South Florida and the signature of their president. So that was great.
All right. Mike, can you touch on a little bit of the collaborations that you had, or I know you have OCOG, maybe how they were involved in this process?
Yeah, sure. We affectionately call our One Community, One Goal initiative OCOG. And basically, it's a strategy around how we will, in fact, improve the economic prosperity of the entire region with a very strong focus, obviously, on Miami-Dade County. It requires us to partner with other organizations. We have a very close working relationship with Miami-Dade County, with the schools, with our universities, and then, of course, with our partners in Broward and Palm Beach. So it's a way for us to really represent this community in a unified way. We are able to tell the story and look at all the assets that we have. Instead of a population of 2.7 million here in Miami-Dade, we have a population of 6.1 million when we combine the counties. Instead of a workforce of roughly 1.5 million, we have a workforce of 3.1 million. When we look at our colleges and universities, we have nearly 600,000 students at our colleges and universities. That's impressive to any company, especially a company looking to find 50,000 people over the next 10 to 15 years.
Right, and I looked at the RFP. It's about 8 pages long. If you guys haven't seen it, you can still go and see what they were asking for. A lot of those jobs are going to be higher level developer jobs, executives, which I thought was very, very cool.
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't seen the Amazon RFP, it was a public document, so you can Google it and go online and get the original RFP. They're looking for 50,000 people. About 30% of those or so will likely be technical talent, the folks with experience in computer science, the STEM-related disciplines, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, computer science, software engineering, et cetera. But that other 70% or so are in every other profession. So if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, I mean, you name it, there are opportunities for virtually every single profession within this organization, assuming we're successful in bringing them here to Miami.
I want to get to you, my guys on the right, but I have one more question, Mike. If you could take us back to that time that this came, because it was 3 months into your role as president, and there were some other environmental things going on. Can you share with us?
Yeah, I'm a relative newcomer to Miami. I arrived in June of last year. And we all know that in September of last year, we had this little incident called Irma that showed up. And that certainly created some challenges for us as an organization. And then shortly after Irma, Amazon released this RFP. And it required a unique set of challenges for us, or it created a unique set of challenges for us across the 3 communities to begin pulling together an RFP with about a 1-month timeline to respond. So we lost the first week. And I have to say it was quite the welcome for me to the community to have a hurricane and the most significant proposal that I've ever seen in my 20 years in the economic development business. And I think my colleagues would say the same thing. This is a major proposal that of an order of magnitude that we haven't seen before. And the fact that we were able to pull it off in about 30 days with all that was going on. And by the way, I don't want to fail to mention our partner with Enterprise Florida, who helped coordinate the effort across the entire state, because there were 3 other communities involved in addition to Miami.
Thank you. David, I want to go to you to, hurricane hits. Now we've got to hit the ground running with the proposal. What are we doing to prepare for if this proposal gets accepted? How are we going to prepare ourselves to be ready to hit the ground running then?
Well, I think that part of that is, as you heard, that collaboration across the whole region, right? So as Mike mentioned, as Shereena mentioned, that collaboration with the universities to make sure that you're going to be able to develop that pipeline to show the support from the community to Amazon that if they do come here, that talent will be produced. Because again, it's not overnight, it's in the next 10 to 15 years. So I think that that's part of that collaboration, as well as all the other different organizations that when those sites got put up, as far as the consideration which sites were on there, is to work with all the cities. There's 31 cities in Broward County. I'm not sure how many cities are in. Yeah, so you got all those different cities, and then Palm Beach as well. So the fact that all 3 organizations will work together as a region, along with the state, to make sure that we gave the most comprehensive proposal to them, to make sure that it's not just a great proposal, but then after, if that opportunity does come to us, that we are able to fulfill those initiatives that we put in there. So,
absolutely, thank you. And can you talk about some of the challenges that we had?
Sure. So I'll say that one of the challenges for us, I think, and overall in business, is that we have this. You go outside and we have our first nice cold snap. Cold snap to southern Florida is like 70 degrees, right? Not -5 where Mike might have come from. But it's that beautiful weather, and it's wonderful that we have it. But people then tend to focus on that and think of it still as a tourism destination or a sun and fun destination. The fact that we have world-class technology companies here. And so that was one of the challenges, at least in this piece too, was to say, how do we communicate to that? And it's been something we've been trying to address as a region for a while. So I'm not sure how many of you have heard of that. It's a gateway to Latin America, right? South Florida is a gateway to Latin America. It's a gateway from the Europe into the US or so forth. But it's also a technology gateway. And that was just on the cover page for the South Florida Business Journal, and talking about David Beckham's initiative for soccer, that they also want to focus on technology. So I don't know how many of you heard of the thing, a tech gateway map, but it's an asset map, and it's got about 110 logos on it of technology companies. Companies like CareCloud, Miami, Intel, Citrix in Fort Lauderdale, or Ultimate in Weston, or Hotel Planner up in Palm Beach, or IBM. So you've got some of the historic nameplates, but you also have some of the newer companies. And so when Amazon, on that proposal, we put that asset map in there, and it was very impactful in the fact that they could see right away, wow, there is technology companies. It's not just a couple of the big ones that we know of. It's just not the Microsoft Latin American headquarters. It's all these other things that are here too. So that piece we utilized that again and again and again, and that was in part of the proposal to communicate immediately that we have world-class technology companies here in South Florida.
Thank you. If we get this deal, if it comes through, Manny, I want to go to you for this one. Can you talk a little bit about how this will impact businesses in South Florida and in Florida as a whole?
Well, I think that, as Mike mentioned, it's not just technologists. It's all these different things that are going to be needed. And to absorb that, and 8 million square feet of office space, up to 50,000 employees and so forth, that capital investment, I mean, that is just that's a regional effort. I mean, that's not one city. And I think that, as Mike was saying too, when you look at the amount of population across the region and the fact that we have Brightline that connects us, that was one of those things to say, look, that is going to be a great opportunity to tap into this whole region and to be able to provide Amazon what they need, and those the other challenges come along with that. But I think it's absolutely a regional approach in all the different avenues that you come into, because it would be tough for any one city to be able to handle that.
Absolutely. Manny, can you talk a little bit about what challenges or how this will impact businesses in South Florida?
Well, I think winning a project like this would be a game changer for not only for this community, but for the entire state. But quite frankly, I think that in many ways, South Florida has already won. We have already won because making this cut, being in the final cities, regions under consideration for this project itself, is a tremendous message. It's a message that we've always wanted to send out to the world, which is that Florida is a lot more than just tourism or agriculture or what have you. That the fact is, the state of Florida is the third state in our country in terms of high technology establishments, high technology employment. We've already won because the collaboration between these three counties is a showcase for the rest of the state and for everyone in terms of how effectively you can showcase a region by working together. And that's extremely important, and I'll tell you why. Because I work for the agency that's a state economic development agency. So we work with all the counties. And I always tell the joke that trade and tourism lend itself to collaboration, but business recruitment is a contact sport. These communities, each of them with their own agendas, governments, etc., were able to see the greater good, the vision, come together and put a proposal that I believe if we would have tried to stand individually, this region would not be in the game today. So I congratulate my three colleagues around the table for being an example to this state and to the nation too.
Absolutely, definitely. It was really exciting to hear about it, and the buzz was going around. I think, how many of you guys out there know about the Amazon deal? And yeah, I mean, the short list came out, and then actually, I heard that we were out of the running for a minute. I don't know if anyone else heard that. And then this panel came along, and I was like, well, we're back in. This is exciting. We've got some questions here. For Manny, okay, did you identify any potential drawbacks of Amazon arriving in Miami to the local tech and startup scene? And if so, what were they, and how would you say you mitigated those?
Well, I think in reality, a project of this magnitude would provide a tremendous anchor that would allow smaller companies to benefit, to participate. It would provide, a base where when you recruit a manufacturing company, one of the great benefits is you always get a benefit from the supply chain. The smaller companies in the state would receive a tremendous benefit by having this anchor project in our state, and would allow many companies, including people around this room, to essentially do business with the anchor company. So I don't truly see a drawback for the communities. I don't know if my colleagues would like to comment on that, but
Yeah, I would agree with Manny. I don't see a downside for tech companies that already exist in the community. In fact, Miami has recently started to, and South Florida has recently started to be identified as a tech hub. I don't know if you're following some of the news, and it always seems to be centered around what's going on with Amazon. So we're being identified, along with Denver, Colorado, Austin, Texas, and of course Silicon Valley, as the tech hubs, and we're an up-and-coming tech hub. If Amazon decides to locate here, game over. We will clearly be a tech hub, and any companies that are actively engaged in this community will have opportunities that they haven't seen before. You're going to see investors showing up. You're going to see serial entrepreneurs showing up. The whole group of companies that you saw on stage just before this panel, you're going to see that in many multiples, just because of the opportunity that's represented by a company of this magnitude. I mean, there's nothing bigger. It's the largest project of this type that I've seen in my 20-plus years doing economic development, and I think it would drive our community, all of South Florida, in a direction that frankly, we can only imagine. But we're looking forward to it, and we are still under consideration. They have not announced any changes yet, so there's still 20 communities. We are still one of them, and we're excited to be a part of it.
And I'd like to draw a parallel to one of the booming industries that we have in Palm Beach County. 30, 40 years ago, no one had ever even heard of the company Pratt & Whitney, which is one of the largest employers in Palm Beach County. And ultimately, them deciding to locate in Palm Beach County allowed for an immense number of supply chain vendors within their industry, along with competitors, people that left Pratt & Whitney, now starting their own larger companies. And it just allowed us to put South Florida, Palm Beach County on the map for this one industry. And I see Amazon doing the same exact thing for technology as well.
All right, we've got some other questions coming in. Thank you guys for participating in the conversation. So this one, how government organizations in the cities of South Florida are addressing the technology revolution that's happening. So how are the government organizations in the cities here addressing the technological revolution that is happening? I'm going to go to you for this,
Sure.
Mike. I don't know. I feel like you're the closest to the government, I think.
Well, government plays an important role. They become an enabler of these kind of things to happen. So I'll speak to my experience working with Mayor Jimenez and the other mayors throughout Miami-Dade County, and I certainly invite my colleagues to do the same with respect to their communities. From day one, when this proposal was announced, Mayor Jimenez and the other mayors throughout Miami-Dade County that wanted to offer up sites, they engaged with us, and they engaged with us in a very collaborative way. They became sources of information. In fact, you asked a question a little bit earlier, Mary, about this collaboration that exists between the four of us who are sitting here. Interestingly enough, we signed, I think at last count, 54 non-disclosure agreements, not just between governmental entities, but between various organizations in this community that we needed help from in order to develop the proposal that was ultimately submitted. And in many cases, the governmental entities went out of their way to provide us with detailed data, to provide us with creative concepts around how to get permitting done on a fast-track basis, et cetera. They were very engaged, and we were very excited to have them as partners, and we truly consider our government partners to be enablers of these kinds of opportunities.
That's great. Manny, do you want to touch on that one?
well, I think in the case of the state of Florida, one of the key things that the state has done that I think is going to pay enormous dividends for Florida moving forward is the state government has moved to invest a significant amount of resources in our universities, but dedicated to STEM-type education. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the state of Florida actually inaugurated a STEM-dedicated university, which is established in Lakeland. But throughout the state, the state government, the state legislature, or the governor has been rewarding those universities that are investing in additional programs having to do with technology, science, math, etc. In other words, funneling the money towards those those schools that will be graduating the students that we want to have the tech jobs here in the state of Florida. So that's one way that state can affect this process, by simply putting the money into supporting tech education.
Thank you. We've got another question coming in. What other opportunities are the three counties looking to pursue together now that we have this foundation that's been established from this Amazon HQ2 project? I'm going to go to you for this one, Shereena, just because you have already talked a little bit about some things that are coming up for you guys that are exciting.
Absolutely. So I think that this lends us an opportunity to focus on the industries that are really coming on, like technology, of course. And I don't want to steal David's thunder. However, the Tech Gateway is a great example of a collaboration with the three counties that are really rallying behind nurturing the talent that's necessary for these companies like Amazon and others that we would be pursuing. And we have an opportunity to work together to rally behind opportunities that weren't really present before. At this point, we've all completed an analysis of our workforce in our communities, and now we have the ability to compare our notes and compare the assets that our region has when it comes to talent through initiatives like Tech Gateway, as well as others that we would love to continue to push within our targeted industries, if that makes sense. So
yeah. No, I'll jump in on that. So one of the things on the Tech Gateway, if you go to techgateway.org, you'll see 4 digital maps and a PDF that you can download. The download basically is an artistic map. Like I mentioned, it's got the logos on it. But if you go in the digital maps, you can click into each one of those logos for the technology companies, find out the local information about the company, and then click into their main website. And so we talk about building the brand here, about technology, building the brand here, but we also want to build it outside the area. So we want to make an impact with the brain drain, that there's opportunities for those students coming out of college, that there are great opportunities here for technology companies, but we also want to make sure that we build that brand outside of the area. And so one of the things that we're doing together as a collaboration is working in a couple of different markets. In that same map with some copy and some information on the other side of it is going to be inserted in the Boston market Business Journal, as well as the Washington, D.C. market. DC and Boston are both academic dense markets. In other words, they produce more degrees than those companies can absorb. Boston market produced 40,000 more degrees in technology than they can absorb. Washington, D.C. market produced 50,000 jobs in the last 4 years, 50,000 technology graduates that they can't absorb. We're going to put that Tech Gateway map in both of those markets and let them know, look, if it's -5 up in Boston and you're freezing, it's 70 degrees here in South Florida, you can have a job in technology and work in the cloud and live in the sun. Why not? So,
I'd like to add one additional thought. So if we can work together and convince businesses that South Florida is the best place for them to be, then the three of us can fight like cats and dogs, like any other family would, to win. Right? Because at the end of the day, we all want more businesses to locate in our community. But collectively, when we convince businesses that this is the best place to be, we guarantee that South Florida is going to win. Again, so think about Amazon. If they decide to locate in South Florida, all three of us win. We have infrastructure that connects the three of us. David mentioned Brightline. If Brightline creates easy and seamless connectivity for anyone living in any one of the three communities to have an opportunity at a business like Amazon. But you know what? You don't have to wait for Amazon. That opportunity is available to you today with all the businesses that we have between the three communities. One small thing that we're doing, our executive committees of the three organizations that provide us with our governance, they've agreed to have a joint meeting this coming February. It'll be the first time that these three organizations, where the leadership has come together to talk about strategic opportunities for us to work together. Imagine us doing joint marketing where we go out and tell the world. Well, hell, for that matter, we go to Tallahassee and tell Tallahassee that South Florida really is an important place for this state to continue to invest in education and in other places where we so desperately need it. But clearly, telling our story and telling it in a unified way is one of the things that we view as being most important for us. And the three of us are looking forward to doing that together. And the leadership, the governance group of the three organizations will be coming together in February to kick that off.
I'll just jump in one other note. So we also have companies that are already here that have locations in all 3 counties or 2 of the 3 counties. I just left Royal Caribbean before this. I was with their chief technical officer. A couple days a week, she works up in Broward. A couple days a week, she's down in Miami. And I think that collaboration for the Amazon, and not just the Amazon, but the other things that we're doing together, that speaks volumes to these companies. It says this community has it together, and they're pro-business, and they are not squabbling. Like Mike said, we just want you to look at South Florida. Wherever you land is going to be the most appropriate place for you by your priorities, not ours. So we just want to present that best opportunity. But it's amazing what the companies are here and how they see that work together.
Absolutely. That Tech Gateway map is quite eye-opening to anyone that's wondering what's going on, who is here, and if you're not on it, you can be at it, sure. Correct? Great. Just see him after the panel to see David. So I want to go back to you, David, and if you could talk to us a little bit about something, of course, that would benefit any business and how businesses that come and they invest here in South Florida, that is a win, of course, if Amazon comes, but for any business, how can they expect for us to give back to them? What kind of support do we provide them economically, developmentally?
I think you meant Mike.
I'm sorry, yeah, I do mean Mike. I'm looking at you, sorry.
Yeah, so companies that are here in South Florida, opportunities for them, we think already exists. We are working to ensure access to capital. We're working to ensure access to talent. We're working to ensure that the infrastructure is right to support those businesses that choose to locate and expand here. And we're working collaboratively to make that happen. And that's something that you just don't find in other places. All 3 of us have very similar business models. We're here, if the company should just view us as an extension of their own resources. But we're an extension that helps them open up resources that, in many cases, can be challenging to access. Working with our governmental partners, whether it's permitting or any other type of support that they may need. Access to incentives and other programs that are available. So they should view us and work with us as a resource. And we are a partner. We're there to help businesses access talent, infrastructure, governmental resources, whatever may be needed in order to seamlessly allow them to grow and prosper here in South Florida.
Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about the future. Amazon, they continue to disrupt business as usual. They make innovative moves, and they're cool. They deliver packages with drones. They're revolutionizing healthcare. They've got smart shopping. So could you talk a little bit, David, about the South Florida Alliance and highlight some of the past and things that have come out of here and how South Florida is ready to embrace this?
Sure. So I think you were talking about like the South Florida Technology Alliance is a group that is a nonprofit group to support technology and has monthly events and so forth, just like Refresh or some of the other ones, Palm Beach Tech. But I think that going back to your comment about innovation, so we have a legacy of innovation. So that thing that you can't put down if you don't have your hand on it, like in 10 minutes you start to kind of break out in hives and all that stuff. The fact that the smartphone, Simon, was invented here 33 years ago, most people don't have any idea. The first IBM PC invented in Boca Raton. BlackBerry, when they ruled the world before iPhone came along, all research, engineered, and designed in South Florida. We now have the biggest startup in the world in Magic Leap. I mean, we're not just all of a sudden becoming a tech hub. We've been a tech hub in a unique and individual way. And I think that we have a legacy of innovation and having Amazon to be part of that. If they choose this location, that's just another piece in the puzzle that as it moves forward. I mean, I can go on about different things of companies that have, you had eBuilder in Sunrise, Florida, or Plantation, excuse me. They made a great exit for $500 million. I thought $500 million was good until I heard about Chewy at $2.3 billion making an exit. So we have a history of companies in South Florida that are innovative and are pushing the needle. Magic Leap created technology that didn't exist. Think about that. Rony Abovitz actually brought in astronauts, former astronauts, and said to speak to his folks because they had the goal, whatever, years ago, whatever it is, to go to the moon or whatever the things are, the space shuttle. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. And we're going to figure out a way to do it. You just have to have your eye on that prize. What is that? Now we just need to figure out how to get there. That's the type of companies that we have in South Florida. And Magically One launched a few months ago. We have it in our office. We were one of the first organizations in the world to get one. If you haven't seen what Magic Leap is doing, you got to go on and do YouTube. It is amazing. It's amazing. So here's my thought on innovation.
So closing up, what have you all learned from this experience?
Well, personally, if I were speaking on behalf of the state, I would say that through collaboration, you can achieve results that you can't achieve individually. And I think, by the way, that's a tremendous message also to our respective governments, because at the end of the day, we all report and are funded by government. In my case, the states, in their cases, by county governments. And I think it's going to be much easier going forward in the future for these communities to come together and go to their local county commissions and say, hey, we need help so that we can come together again and win another big project, because the potential of this region goes so far beyond the local. We've talked through years as South Florida being the gateway to the Western Hemisphere. I think this part of Florida has the potential to be much more than that. This region has the potential to truly be the Hong Kong of the Western Hemisphere, the place where everybody, east, west, north, south, comes to do business, to come together, to innovate. And I think this is a great first step for that type of collaboration moving forward.
I have to agree with Manny 100%, and I'm Manny's biggest fan on this panel, so. But I used to work for Enterprise Florida along with Manny, and site selection does not typically happen like this. It's not usually publicized. It's not something that's typically public knowledge. So to have this occur in such a public forum for a large company like Amazon looking for a site wherever in the country, or even in the world for that matter, was a huge shift in what we do every day. And I think that this demonstrated to us that economic development in itself, what we do, is evolving. And we have to be able to collaborate in this new landscape of economic development, because otherwise, we can't do it on our own. And I echo Manny's words in that collaboration is going to be the key to allow us to usher into this new era of how economic development is managed, as well as how communities work together to land large projects like Amazon. And even if we don't land it, it would prevail an opportunity for any other large company, even half the size, for us to win and make a big impact on South Florida.
I'll jump in and then I'll let Mike finish. When I first started doing this a while ago, an effort like this would not have happened because the leadership was more siloed. And I got to give Mike a tremendous amount of credit, because coming in here, like he said, fairly new, the leadership of Kelly Smallridge up in Palm Beach and my boss, Bob Swindell, when that phone call came in or we got the notice that the Amazon piece was out there, there was no hesitation in working together. And that's the type of leadership, that collaboration of just looking at how do we do this as a region instead of competing in silos. That's a new that's really, really powerful for us, and it wouldn't happen a long time ago. And then kudos to all the CEOs, Mike and Kelly and Bob, for bringing that together, and along with the state.
Here.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So I guess I would close out with a message to our friends at Amazon, right? We're all here. And so I'd like to close with a message to Amazon. There is no better place for them to establish their next headquarters than here in South Florida in Miami-Dade. And I think that's a compelling message, right? They'll have access to roughly 1 billion people. So how do we go from 6 million to 1 billion? Well, clearly they'll have access to the entire United States. That's 350 million. What we really haven't talked about is their access to Latin America, which represents another 650 million people. And there is no better gateway than right here. And so this represents an incredible opportunity for them to make a difference. They can make a difference here in Miami, that's clear. They can make a difference here in the United States, but they can also make a tremendous difference in all of Latin America, and that's a billion-person opportunity. What better message to a company like Amazon than to say that we really are a gateway, we really are an access point to an incredible population and an incredible business opportunity for them. So we're looking forward to it. We want you here. We want you to know that. So hopefully you all will be live on social media, making sure that the message gets out to Amazon that we want them here.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, each of you. Thank you to your teams who worked on the proposal. I'm sure they did a lot of hard work, late nights. And thank you, audience, for engaging with us, and Unbound for putting together this fantastic panel. Thank you.
Thank you.